at this time. And I will make some announcements at the end of the meeting, but my name is Allison Limoges. I'm chair of the Education Committee for Alameda Backyard Growers, and this is, as I said, our February meeting. We're delighted to have you here. We're also delighted that our guest speaker tonight is Joan Sarlatte, who has been a Master Gardener with Alameda County since 2018. And I know that in the past she's presented this talk in person, so it's going to be a little different for her tonight to do it via a computer, but I know she'll do a great job, and I know that she'll do her best to make it accessible for all of you. She graduated from the University of California, San Francisco, and has a master's in nursing as a nurse practitioner. She's worked in various clinics with a health promotion wellness emphasis. Her main client population was occupational health, where she assessed and diagnosed injured workers. She is certified in ergonomics and provided worksite assessments for employees. As I said, she became a Master Gardener in 2018 and is using her ergonomic expertise for gardening. I know she'll define ergonomics for you in her presentation. And so I turn this over now to Joan Sarlatte. Thank you, Joan.
Good. So thank you, everybody. Nice to see you this evening, even though I can't really see you like I'd like to. Normally, when I give this talk, I'm in person, and I demonstrate a lot of different things with my body. But tonight, I'm going to ask you to help me with that, since I can't demonstrate as many things as I'd like to. So bear with me and go along for the ride if you don't mind, because we're going to hopefully have some fun doing some of this stuff. So the goal of being here tonight is really to understand how gardening can affect your body mechanics and the wear and tear of your joints. You're also going to learn how to correct your gardening activity for better body mechanics, using better body mechanics. And we're going to talk about some of the best ergonomic practices, okay? You know, your body is actually really smart. It's the way it's, engineered, the way it's put together is really, really smart. Basically, ergonomics is relating to or designed for the efficiency of comfort in a working environment. And basically, my definition is using your body the way it's meant to be used in neutral postures, and we'll talk about that. So the first thing I want to talk about is posture. I want everybody to kind of sit up tall in their chair, put your backside all the way back. Don't be perching on your chair, okay? Open your chest as if you've won an Olympic medal. Now, I won the luge. Whoever wants to win other medals, go for it. But pretend like you're holding up a medal on your chest, because it really helps you accentuate this part of your chest, okay, and opening up your posture. I also want you to center your ears over your shoulder so that your head is, the weight of your head is centered. Most of us sit with our head forward or our chest closed. So I'm asking you to open your chest, show me your Olympic medal, and get your ear over your shoulder, okay? Now I want you to do something. I want you to close your eyes and look over your right shoulder, and then look over your left shoulder, okay? Now I want you to open your eyes, and I want you to slouch, and look over your right shoulder, and look over your left shoulder. And I want you to appreciate the difference. The range of motion from your neck was way better with good posture, right? Okay, hopefully everybody felt that, because you really, if you demonstrate it, it really makes much more sense to you, okay? So let's talk a little bit about neutral postures. Neutral posture for your head is just like I described. Your chest is open, your ear is over your shoulder. If you're sitting, your buttocks is all the way back in your chair, okay? If you're standing, though, a lot of times what people do is they stand with their stomach out, or they stand with their backside out, and that's really going to throw off your posture. So you really want to kind of, if you're standing with your backside out, tuck your backside in, pull up your abdominal muscles, and that's really good posture. If it looks like military posture, it might feel that way to you now because you're not maybe used to it, but hopefully it won't as you practice better posture, okay? So for your neck and your head, it's chest open, ear over your shoulder, weight centered over your weight of your head centered over your neck and shoulders. For your back, like I said, some people stand with their backside out. Some people stand with their stomach out. In that case, you want to pull your stomach in, pull your muscles, your abdominal muscles in, get a good, nice, strong core. And that's what your back neutral position looks like, okay? You do have some curves in your back, obviously, that you're not going to change, but that's normal. For your elbow, An elbow is a C shape. It's not like this. It's more of a C shape, a C shape. So if you stand with your arms like this all the time, what you tend to be doing is hurting the ulnar nerve. You've knocked your elbow against something, you get that funny electric feeling. That's the ulnar nerve. But if you stand with your arms akimbo frequently, you're going to be damaging that ulnar nerve. So it should be a C rather than an L. Okay. For your wrist, if you're holding a glass in your hand, that's what your wrist looks like in a neutral position. It's not flexed, it's not extended, it's nice neutral. And your fingers aren't extended or flexed. They're just kind of soft like this. So that's what a neutral wrist looks like in hand. Okay, for your knee, most of us don't do, people who do sit on their knees, it's a problem. You can get into trouble, but you want to be, if you're sitting in a chair, just have your knees be in front of you. Don't cross your knees, okay? So any questions so far about ergonomics? Again, using your body the way it's meant to be, okay? What are some of the common activities that lead to discomfort and pain? My goal when you leave here tonight is have you learn as much as you can about your bodies. You can take care of yourself as long as you can, garden as long as you can. I mean, I'm in my 70s and I hope I can garden in my 80s and longer. So I really plan on trying to practice when I'm preaching here, okay? So the important thing, like I said, is gardening in good posture, not poor posture. Maintaining awkward positions. You got to pull some weeds and you're only going to be there for half hour. You end up being there 2 hours on your hands and knees pulling weeds. Not so wonderful. That's too long a time, gets you in deep trouble. Avoid excessive force. I was cutting a branch the other day and I was having trouble. So I started finding myself saw even harder. You don't want to do that. You really want to get a better tool. Got a bigger saw so I could get a branch better than I did with the smaller saw. So I didn't have to use such big force. Again, the right tool. Again, I got a bigger saw rather than that small saw. And you want to work inside your comfort zone. I want everybody to take their hands and pretend like you're a witch stirring cauldrons. So stir your cauldrons, okay? If that's where you are, that's where your zone of comfort is. It's not this far in front of you. It's not that far to the side of you. It's within your cauldron range, okay? If you're working within that zone of comfort, you're not going to be overtaxing your neck or your low back or your knees, okay? Your poor neck holds up a bowling ball. Ever wonder how heavy your head is? If you have good posture, it's about 10 or 11 pounds. If you have lousy posture, it's much more. That's why I had you a few minutes ago look over your right shoulder and your left shoulder with good posture and with lousy posture. Because what happens is, in good posture, your head weighs less than it does if you're having lousy posture, which means a lot less work on these muscles that hold up your poor little neck, okay? Or big neck. So let's look a little bit at the effects of posture in different positions, whether you're sitting, standing, or walking, okay? So the first one over here, standing at ease, the far left one, standing at ease, you can see the graph on the left shows you the disc pressure measurements on your body. So when you're standing at ease, you're just about 300, okay? Look what happens the minute you sit. You can see all these different postures. This one's the worst one. And if you're sitting with your head forward, that one's the worst. Look at, you're getting up there to like 650, something like that. The two better postures are down here you're still sitting, you're in the 450 range, okay? What's the difference? The difference between these two is your head is forward in this one, and this one, your head is centered over your shoulders. So that expression, sit down and take a load off, is absolutely not true. If you want to take a load off, you need to stand up. So if you're sitting at a desk all day, you really do need to take stand breaks. Or if you're lucky enough to have a sit-stand workstation, you can stand and stand and sit and stand and sit. So when you're out in the garden, don't be sitting, pulling weeds all the time. Get up and move around. And again, work on the posture. Okay. So this is my favorite over here. I remember being in college and you turn around and look at half the class was sleeping. So they were kind of with their heads down and kind of slashing forward. But it wasn't as bad as this one where they're standing up, but their head is kind of forward too. Okay.
Joan, could I just
Yes.
interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
One of our viewers asked that if you're going to do a demonstration with your hands, that you kind of scoot back a little bit so we can see the demonstration that you're doing.
I should go back. I can't see myself on the screen. So let me find myself on the screen here. For some reason, I can't see myself. Right, here I am. Okay. Okay.
But just
So
when you're
can-
using your
You can see
hand.
me, you can see it now? Okay.
Yeah, but
So,
yeah.
so your zone of comfort is here.
Yeah, there, we can't see that.
You can't see that?
No. We can't see your hands. Now we can.
Okay. The problem is I should try to stand. Now you can see me. Okay. So here's your zone of comfort. If you're stirring your cauldrons, here's your zone of comfort. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'll try to sit and stand then too. Okay. Good.
Yes, it'll be good for you.
Okay. So we talked a little bit right now of your neck muscle holding up your head. Let's talk about some of the bones that we have in our bodies. What's the largest bone in our body? If you can look at the graphic here, the largest bone in your body is your femur right here. Okay. And it has your quadriceps on the front of it. And on the back of it, it has your hamstrings, right? Biggest bone in our body. And we'll talk a little bit in a few minutes why that's so important. I think the thing you want to notice is below your waist, not above your waist. Okay. And that's to help stabilize your lower back. Okay. So what happens to this bone when you sit? What happens to your femur, the biggest bone in your body, when you sit? Well, you're sitting on it. It's not doing anything to help you, correct? So when you sit, femur is no longer helping you hold up your body. This is a big contribution to holding up your body too. Okay. I want you to remember that. Okay. So again, let's talk about some gardening tasks and ergonomics and bending. Think of all the things you bend when you're weeding, okay? And do you use both of your hands and your arms when you're weeding, or do you tend to use one hand over and over and over? Start thinking about that. When you're raking, are you raking with holding onto the rake with your palms up, or palms up or palms down? And you can actually change it as you're raking, so you're putting less work on your arms and upper body. When you're cutting. I have a picture here of somebody out of compost using a knife, heavy knife, sharp knife to cut up compost. Okay, how are you doing it? Are you doing it like this above? Are you doing it like this above your head, or are you? I'm sorry, it's hard to do. Are you doing it like this above your head, or are you working from your shoulder to your waist? You want to work from your shoulder to your waist, not too much force that way. Okay. When you're planting, are you bending? When you're cultivating, are you bending? Fertilizing, watering, these are all the tasks that require a lot of bending. So think about how you do it, and think about using both sides of your body. Like I say, raking with your hand, holding the rake with your hand up, palm up, or raking with your palm down, and alternating so that you're using your arms differently, okay? Oops. I just want to show you a couple of pictures so you can think about how these ladies are working. The ladies on the right here in the kind of the violet sweatshirt, this lady, she is probably just getting outside of her zone of comfort. If you were to draw her zone of comfort, it would be, well, maybe like this. Like this. So she's starting to get just outside of her zone of comfort, which is really hard on all these muscles back here. And on her poor head is getting heavier. She's down like this. Her back is not especially straight. She has a little bit of a bulge right there, but not bad. This person, she's got her legs spread far apart, so she's very stable. Here's her nice big femur holding her up, right? Her back is pretty straight. I didn't do very well in the picture. Okay, but anyway, her back is pretty straight. So that's kind of a good one. As you garden with fellow gardeners, try to take a look at their body mechanics and see how they're doing. Just kind of a little self-interest. Again, I like her legs being far apart, her big femur is holding her up, but she's kind of got her, little curve in her back right here, okay? This lady, she's got her knees slightly bent. She's got pretty straight back, so not bad. I like her body mechanics, okay? So start evaluating. It'd be nice if you could have your girlfriend, your husband, or your kids or somebody take a picture of you doing different tasks in your garden. And that way you can kind of learn to evaluate your own, how are you doing, okay? Especially since we're all weeding right now. That's the big thing we're all doing right now. Get a few pictures of yourself weeding and see how that looks, okay? So can everybody see this whole slide? Yeah, okay. So if you're standing up and you're going to lift something, your torso weighs 105 pounds, okay? That's the average human torso. If you're bigger, it weighs a little bit more. If you're smaller, it weighs a little bit less. When you lift a 10-pound object, it puts 1,150 pounds of pressure on your lower back. So that's 105 times 10. Why is that? You're having to defy gravity when you're bending over, coming back up and holding that, hopefully holding that package close to your chest. Okay. So it's a 10-to-1 ratio from the floor to the vertical lifting from the floor. The human back operates on a 10-to-1 ratio. So people think, oh, you know, I'm not lifting very much. It's only 20 pounds or 10 pounds, but it's a lot more. It's 10 times that because of you're having to hold up your upper body while you're lifting that object. Okay. And again, hopefully your big femur is helping you do that. You've got your knees slightly bent and you're lifting that way. So here's a good picture of it. There's a 10-pound, picking up 10 pounds. The torso weighs 105 pounds. It's putting 1,150 pounds on the low back. Okay. So again, you have to work against gravity to get this package up. This line shows you kind of how you have to work against yourself. Okay. Even bending as little as 20 degrees, like bending over an elevator or raised bed, can get you into trouble. Okay, because again, you're having to fight gravity to raise yourself in that position. The average person will bend about anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 times a day, depending on what you're doing. So right now, if we're all weeding, we're bending quite a bit. Maybe as we begin planting, we're not going to be bending quite so much, but we still bend. I mean, think about it. You bend to get out of bed in the morning. You bend to brush your teeth. You bend to sit down and eat your breakfast. You bend to, I don't know, wash dishes, whatever the things you do in your life, you're bending quite a bit. And then add the garden bending to it, and you're bending a lot more. As little as 20 degrees of flexion, like over raised beds, increases the pressure of your discs by 30%. So your poor back disc, especially the lower back, is really having to work harder. The other thing I want to say about the back is when you're standing upright, all your vertebrae are stacked on top of each other. So they're all working together to help you, whatever you're doing. The minute you bend, the vertebrae on the bottom has to hold up the vertebrae on top of it. And that goes all the way down the line. So if you're bending, totally bending, I'm trying to do this with my arm. If you're bending, okay, here I am bending. Here's my head down here. Here's my head. Here's my backside. So this vertebrae needs to hold up this one, which holds up this one, which holds up this one, which holds up this one. When you bend, you're segmenting out all the vertebrae. They're not working together. They're each man for himself, basically. The one on top is having to be supported by the one below it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So 20 degrees, we said it was 30% increase on your discs. At 90 degrees, that's bending straight over. It increases your pressure, disc pressure 150%. And this doesn't even include the weight of the thing that you're picking up, the object that you're picking up. It's just you. It's holding up you. Okay. When you bend, instead of bending through your low back, you want to keep your spine straight and hinge at the hip. So can everybody stand up? And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Stand up. Okay. So I'm holding my waist. Can everybody see where I'm holding? Okay. And I'm going to bend. Okay. Now I want you to hold your hips and then bend. It's very different. When your hips are bending, you're hinging and you're using your body the way you're meant to be. When you're bending at your waist, you're not really using your back discs or other muscles in synchronization. So usually instead of bending at your waist, bend at your hips. Okay. It's something you have to think about. It's not going to happen overnight if you bend from your waist right now. Okay. But kind of try to keep your spine straight. Don't be hunching, and hinge at the hip. Okay. The United Parcel Service, believe it or not, has some really good practices because they have a lot of people who lift and push heavy and move heavy things all day. So they have some basic principles that are really important, I think, to think about. When you bend or lift, you want to use your knees and keep your back straight. You just said that. Don't bend at the waist, bend at your hip, hinge at the hip. Hold the object as close to you as possible and hold it between your shoulders and your waist. Don't hold it out here. Don't hold it out here. You know, try to keep it between your shoulders and your waist. Okay. And if you weigh 100 pounds, 20% of your weight would be not very much. So you really want to keep track of how heavy is the object you're lifting, and don't have it be more than 20% of your body weight. So 20% of your body weight. Okay. Most people who hurt their backs are doing something like twisting or pivoting while they're lifting. And that's what gets you into trouble. So if you're lifting something, kind of don't twist or turn, don't pivot. Turn your whole body if you have to lift something. Don't just turn your upper torso. Don't do this kind of stuff. Turn your whole body, okay? And your feet should be kind of in the direction of that you're going to be lifting. Again, if your feet aren't pointing in that direction, you're going to be twisting, and that's how you hurt the muscles in your back. Change the direction with your feet, not your waist, okay? That's a really basic one. I think we've all probably hurt our backs once in our life, and usually for me, it's been just twisting when I shouldn't have been twisting. So it's a really common injury that can occur. Thank God it's usually temporary. Okay, so we've talked about bending, we've talked about lifting. Let's talk a little bit about pushing or pulling. And I like to think about the green recycling can when I do this. The demonstration garden at Lake Merritt, there's a big old, much bigger than this particular green bucket, it's huge. And I see people pulling it. So let's talk about that. Do you want to push or do you want to pull when you're pushing a big recycling can? Think about it. If you're pushing it, you're using your whole body to help move it along. If you're pulling it, you're working against yourself. You're working against yourself, right? Okay. So you don't want to work against yourself. You want to push it so that your body is helping you move it. If you're pulling it back towards you, you're fighting it. You know, it's working against you. Okay. So again, I want to remind you about the 10 times whatever you're doing. So 105-pound torso, lifting a 10-pound box becomes 1,150 pounds. I just want you to think of that 10-to-1 ratio. It's really, really important. Okay. Somebody's taking a picture. Good. Okay. So we talked a little about bending or squatting. Hopefully everybody knows they should be squatting and not bending. Squatting is you're using your knees and your big femur along with its muscles of your quadriceps and hamstrings. Bending, you're really putting a number on your back. So don't do that. Squat rather than bend. Sitting or standing. Sit down doesn't take a load off. Sitting down puts a load on. So you want to stand as much as you can. I see people weeding and they sit on stools and they bend forward and pull the weeds that way. I would prefer that you get down on your knees and use those thick knee pads that you can use and do it that way. Keep your back straight, but again, you're using your femur in that instance. You're not just, if you're sitting, you're not using your femur, your large bone anymore. So I prefer that you can't stand, you can stand and weed, but it's not very comfortable. But, you can squat and weed, okay? So kneel or stand versus squat. I want you to think about that when you're out in your yard. If you're kneeling, like to pull weeds, I don't stand very often to pull weeds. It's just too hard because you have to really squat pretty low. But I do it for a while. If you have good leg muscles, you can do that. But try not to sit and lean forward. Okay. So the choice between kneeling or standing, choose standing or squatting. Okay. Okay. So when you garden, you want to prepare yourself for some of the things you do. You don't want to just go out there and start doing heavy duty things. You want to, do a few stretches before you begin. So a few side twists are good. A few shoulder rolls are good, backwards and forwards. A few arm circles are really good. Just do a few of those before. But what you really want to make sure you're doing is when you finish gardening is that you stretch. The stretching used to be we stretched before we did things. Now we really should be stretching after you've done your heavy duty stuff, but you can warm up a little bit at the beginning, okay? I wanted to, I missed something here. I'm looking for something I missed, I didn't talk about. I don't see it. Well, there's something called freeze tag, and I want everybody to when you see kids running and they're playing in a playground, somebody else stop and they all freeze. I want you to do that with your body mechanics. So say you're out in your garden and you're weeding. What else are we doing? I want you to just in your head, you say freeze. What is it that what do I look like? Am I all hunched forward, or is my chest open? Is my ear over my shoulder? Is my head hunched forward? What do I look like? So freeze tag is a really good way to kind of retrain yourself in better body mechanics. I play freeze tag every day. I do. I'm a sloucher. I tend to slouch in my chair. So freeze, check it out. Okay. Don't close your chest. Get your chest open. Get your ear over your shoulder. You know better. I also want to show you the chin lift, excuse me, not chin lift, the chin tuck. I was pruning the other day with a long pole. What you want to do when you do that is you open your chest, you get your ear over your shoulder, you tuck your chin in. You know, I'm tucking my chin in, okay? And I'm looking up. You want to look up with your eyes, not your neck, right? Same thing, tuck my chin in, look down. I want to use my neck and my eyes to look down, not my neck, okay? So the chin tuck, you open up your chest, you basically tuck your chin in and you look up. That's how it's much easier on your poor neck if you're like using a long pole to prune things, okay? I'm looking for that slide. I didn't see it. So you do have ergonomic tools that you can buy, but you know what? If you just use a tool correctly, you don't need to go out and spend money on expensive tools. So when I say correctly, if you're holding, obviously, if you're holding, I'm pretending this is my tool. Hold it like this, okay? Don't be doing this kind of. It's hard to show you. Don't do this or this. Do this. This is a neutral position. This is neutral for your wrist. Neutral for your wrist. Don't do this or this. This is what gets you in trouble. So if you're holding your pruners, just make sure you're holding like this and that you're pruning this way. You're not doing this kind of stuff. This is really hard. I'm sorry. So again, if you don't have to go out and buy ergonomic tools, but if you do, don't just make sure you're using your tools in neutral postures to make sure that they're going to work for you. This is an example of an ergonomic tool, and you can see the nice neutral wrist in this picture, and the tool is kind of bent, so it does make it easier. But again, unless you need to replace a tool, I wouldn't go out and spend a lot of money on ergonomic tools. I've seen some shovels that are ergonomic. They'll have instead of just the handle on the shovel, you'll have like an extra piece that you can use to hold with one hand. So when you're shoveling, you're doing this. That makes it a little easier to pick up the shovel. I don't know if you can get what I'm doing, but I'm holding the upper piece that's attached to the shovel, and then the lower piece is like this. I'm trying. That makes sense. Okay. I have another tool I used to use for weeding, and basically it says it's ergonomic, but all it does is it clamps down on it. You can stand up and do it, and it will pull I found that it didn't work that well. So save your money is what I'm saying to you, unless you really find a tool you like a lot. So we've talked a little bit about zone of comfort. Remember to your cauldrons and to stay kind of within your cauldron zone. Take frequent breaks or change positions frequently. You know, the other day I was going to go out to weed and I thought I'd be out there for a half hour. I ended up being out there an hour, and I should have moved around more. I was a little stiff when I came in. So change positions frequently. I always wear a hat. I'm not so good with the sunscreen. Put your tools away, because I can't tell you how many times if you don't put a tool away, you're going to find a way to trip over it. It happens every time. Okay. So put your tools away. Plan your time. I mean, it's not a bad idea to set a timer on yourself. So if you plan to weed for half hour, set your clock to weed for half hour. You know, put your phone on and set it for 30 minutes. And that way at the 30-minute mark, you can determine whether you need to go do something else, which would be better, because we're meant to be hunters and gatherers, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, not a whole bunch of this all at one time. Okay. So plan your time and activities. Keep yourself strong and work on your balance. We haven't talked about this much, but you know, when we're gardening, we're getting some strength, and we're probably getting some flexibility, and we're probably getting some endurance, but not as much as you would if you were doing endurance activities like swimming or riding a bike, or you know, running or walking really fast for endurance. For strength, if you're not really strong in your upper extremities, you can start with some small soup cans, and you do some biceps curls. Do about 10 of those with a small soup can. Okay, and then give it a rest and do another 10 and slowly work your way up. For your triceps, you can do triceps. I don't use can for this one because you can hit yourself in the head. I'm not kidding. So or if you do, just be really careful. But that's for the triceps. Okay. For balance, when you're on the phone, stand on one foot and work on your balance that way. You know, or when you're doing something where you're not, you know, where you're not sitting, And I usually just try to build it into my day. I do it when I brush my teeth. I stand and brush my teeth and stand on one foot and then I stand on the other foot. It makes a big difference in your life. So keep yourself strong and do work on your balance. The other thing is you want to learn to use both hands when possible. If you have a job where you're mousing all the time, teach your other hand to mouse. It will really make it easier for you to learn how to use your hands evenly. Or like I say, when you're raking, you know, put one hand with the palm up and the other hand with the palm down. And that really makes a difference. That way you're using both arms and both hands, okay? So really, you know, excuse me. Ergonomics is about using your body the way it's meant to be used. Excuse me. Try to practice hunting and gathering, spreading different tasks out over time. Don't just do the same thing over and over and over. Work within your zone of comfort. And again, we talked about the role of conditioning a little bit. What didn't we talk about? The one thing I want to, when you're on the phone, when you're on your phone, most people are like this on their phones, right? So when you're on your phone, hold your phone up and look at it this way. That way your poor neck isn't having, your poor bowling ball isn't as heavy. So here it's maybe 10 pounds and maybe down here it's 12 or 13 or 14 pounds. So try to do that. I wanted to show you some stretches too as we went along. So I'm going to stop my presentation here and do a full screen. Stop share. Okay. So I want to start. I'm going to show you some stretches you can do for your arms, and I'll do more. Okay. So let's start with your wrist. Put your hands together. Close your fingers together. Hold your arms together, and make some circles with your wrist, like this. Okay, that's really good for the wrist. Okay, circles. Try not to move your arms too much. Most of the work should be coming out of that wrist. For your fingers, you have, you know, creases in your fingers. Okay, so close to the first crease, close to the second crease, and then touch your fingertips to your palm. Are your fingers tight? Do you feel the tightness? Compare it to your other hand. You'll notice a big difference. So first crease, hold it for about 10 seconds. Second crease, and fingers to the palm. You really know my left hand is much tighter than my right hand. Obviously, my dominant hand is not as tight. Okay. Other stretches you can do. I've lost myself. Wait a minute.
We can still see you.
Oh, can you? I can't see me. Okay.
Yeah, you've lost that screen, but the audience can still see you.
Okay, let me get rid of this again. For some reason, my PowerPoint didn't turn off. Okay. Okay, here we go. So for your arm, sorry about that. Hold your arm in front of you. Take your hand and gently go like this with your arm. You know, just feel the stretching through here. Just gentle, holding your palm, not your fingers. Hold your palm and just gently stretch the inner side of your arm. Okay, and you want to hold it for 10 or 20 seconds. Then you can do the other side. So I'm going to take my hand and put it over the top of my hand and just feel that nice stretch. Okay, good. For your shoulders, we talked about neck already, but gentle left and right, gentle. And left and right, circles. I tend not to do these anymore. My neck is getting old. Okay, but just left and right and these. For shoulders, you want to do these. I love these. You can hear little cracks sometimes. Back and forth. Okay. I'm holding my arm up and I'm pushing in toward my body, and you can feel a nice stretch all in through here. Right? Feel that stretch? Do the other side. And again, feel the stretch in through here. Okay. I'm going to show you one for sitting for your back, and this, you can do this. I'm showing it sitting because it's called the cat and the salad normally, and you're on your bed or on the floor, and you're breathing in and you're arching your back and then you're opening your back. But in a chair, you can do it too. So this is the chair version of the cat and the sow. You know, you can Google any of these stretches too on Google. They're really wonderful. You can see, you know, ask for back stretches or ask for shoulder stretches, and Google has a lot of them. I couldn't put them together in a handout for you because of all the I'll call the copyright laws. Okay, so sorry. But so you can sit in a chair and you can kind of slump, and then you can open up, and you can feel a nice stretch through your shoulder blades, through your mid back, and through your low back. Okay, can you feel that? I like this one a lot, actually. I do this one a lot. The other one you can do, it might be hard to see, is you can try to bring your knee up to your chest. And this is a really good one for your low back. I do this before I get out of bed in the morning. I bring my knee up to my chest, one side, the other side, hold it for 10 or 20 seconds. One side's always tighter than the other. You'll feel it, okay? And then a really good way to stretch your hips is if you could sit on a bed or on a cushion on the floor, just with your legs akimbo. That's a really good way to stretch your hips. For your legs, you can, this is hard. Well, it's hard to tell you, but for your legs, you can stand up. I'm pointing my toes toward my head, and you can feel a nice stretch through the kind of the back of your leg. Okay. Both sides. You can stand tall, and you can't see me, but I'm bending my right knee and I'm stretching my left inner thigh. Okay, so my left inner thigh, opposite sides, right inner thigh. Anyway, so lots of nice stretches. Google is awash with wonderful stretches that you can do. So I certainly just showed you just a few too. So if you have particular body parts that you want to pay attention to, look for some stretches on Google. Okay. I think I've reached the end of my talk. So Sarah, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Hi, Joan. We sure do. A couple of comments right away have been that folks are appreciating the timer idea and taking breaks more often. I think we all kind of get into our groove and we forget to stop for a minute. And then when we go to get up, it's a whole host of feelings in our body, right? We also have folks that are interested in specific sites you might recommend for these stretches.
I can't think of any really good ones. I mean, I just look at Google. I mean, for the most part, they do have some terrible ones, but if you have any, if you try them, if listen to your body. Is whenever you want to do any kind of stretch, listen to your body. If you're tight, don't overstretch, just make them smaller. And that's my best advice. I really don't have any specific sites that I like. I just look at Google and I go through and say, what do I like? But use your body as your own, as your own guide. If it hurts, don't do it, or do it smaller. Or if it hurts, find another one. You can always find an alternative.
Totally. Can you show us how your arms should be in a standing neutral position?
This might be
I
hard.
know that's, yeah.
So my chest is open. I've got my Olympic medal on. My ears are centered over my shoulder, and my arms are just kind of straight at my side. I was talking about your elbow. This is not neutral for your elbow. Neutral for your elbow is more like a C shape. Does that look like a C to you?
A little bit, yeah.
C shape, not an L shape. Okay, so not an L shape.
Great. That's super helpful. And another chat was mentioning how bending over a 2-foot tall raised bed seems to often be much harder on their body than working on their hands and knees in an in-ground garden setting.
It's really hard to keep your back straight when you bend, but that's really your goal. You don't want to be slouching. You want to keep your back as straight as you can as you're bending. It's hard. You have to work on it. You have to work on it.
Awesome. And we have Christy Adams is mentioning that she's a gardener and a yoga instructor.
Yoga is great for
class,
stretching, yeah, and strengthening, yeah.
Awesome. She's at Be Curious Yoga. You guys can look it up if you'd like. Another person's wondering if they should design their raised beds so they're not longer than the reach of their arms.
Good
so
suggestion.
That they do.
Yeah, good suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah. I built some raised beds in my backyard a couple years ago, and the whole goal was that the midpoint would be an easy reach. So
Right.
I don't have beds that are wider than 4 feet.
Or you could put stepping stones in your beds, and you're losing some of the planting space, but at least you can move around a little bit if you want to.
Totally. That's a great suggestion. And another question is, what would you suggest in terms of strengthening exercises for the mid back?
For the mid back.
Mhm.
You know, you can lay on your back on the floor and do some small weights, but I'm trying to think for your mid back. You know, whenever you're exercising your low back, you're also exercising your mid back to a certain degree. So I think weights would be a good thing to do. You know, you can. I'm having such a hard time with showing you as I'm sitting in a position, but you know, you can do weights like this. That's getting your mid back. You know, that's getting your mid back. These are getting your mid back. Anyway, and if you haven't done weights, just do resistance to begin with. So just resistance, you know, pushing and pulling, just do resistance. And then you work your way up to those, you know, 1 pound soup can or whatever it is you want to do. I wouldn't start with 2 pound weights at all. That's a lot. Because again, you're holding your arm out with a 2 pound weight, and that 2 pounds could weigh more with the distance and how far it is from your body.
Right. Those are the questions we had. If anyone
Posture
has
does a
any
lot.
others.
Posture does a lot for you because most of us, you know, lean from our mid back. So posture does really good things for your mid back too.
I don't know what you're talking about, Joan, as I just checked my posture. Do you recommend resistant
I like resistance bands. They're
bands?
great. Yeah, they're great. You can put them on your arms. You can put them. I don't like to. I like them on legs better than arms, but they're good either way. I don't like to see people not walking. You know, sometimes you see people walking and they have big weights around their arms. You really have to control weight. So if you can control it as you're walking, good for you. But most people can't. You know, you really. So that's why I do like resistance bands. They're a lot. It's nice to separate out strength from walking or other activities sometimes.
A really good point. I hadn't thought of that.
I used to
Awesome.
see people with elbow tendonitis because they were walking with weights.
Oh, wow. That's intense. All right. That is currently all our questions in the chat room. I'll hand it back over to Allison.
Thank you, Sarah. I do have one more question that I was going to type up, but I'm not that fast of a typist. We have in Alameda Backyard Growers, we have fruit pickers because one of our projects is to pick fruit, excuse me, that we donate to the local food bank, the Alameda Food Bank. And I know we use pickers with extended poles and so forth. And some of them are heavy and some of them, when they're really long, they're heavy. Any recommendations for people using a picker?
Yeah, I was using one the other day to trim a tree. Like I
Right,
said,
same
you really have
idea.
to work. You really want to work on your posture. Open your chest, get your head over your shoulders, tuck your chin in, and look up like this. Don't look up. Oh, how can I do this? Don't look up like this, which is terrible for your neck. So open your chest, do a chin tuck, and then look up. I try to, and the other thing
That's
is
tricky. That's tricky to do. It's sort of
I know,
counterintuitive.
but you really have to work at it. You know, I try to, you know, the other things where you stand in relation to the tree. So if you're standing on the perimeter, well, if you're picking, it might be different. I was cutting branches off, but it's easier to stand directly kind of near the trunk of the tree and look up that way and do it. If you get too far out, you start when you're pulling around.
Right. Good. So, and as you're right, same thing with the saw or anything that's going to actually help prune the tree as well. Same techniques you're recommending it by the sounds of it.
Yeah, get close.
Anybody else have any questions before I make a few announcements at the end of our presentation here? Thank you, Sarah, for that. Thank you, Joan, for the presentation. It was very helpful, as we indicated.
I'm sorry, I wish I could have done better with demonstrations, but I haven't done this on Zoom before, and it's tough. So thank you.
Nor have we for
your
for
patience.
this for ergonomics. So yeah,
Okay.
we're all very accepting of the limitations, but you've given us lots of things that we can think about and practice and ways to go to Google to check out some other stretches. I think it's really important. I'm going to take just a moment to talk about a few announcements of things we have coming up with Alameda Backyard Growers. We have a plant sale on the equivalent of Earth Day this year, which is going to be Saturday, April 23rd. We're going to have our annual plant sale, and it's going to be held on Webster Street at the West End Arts District, which is a big open space that's been created near that, I think it's Califia restaurant. It's next to that. At any rate, we'll have information about it in our newsletters, on our website, on Instagram, on Facebook. So stay tuned, but we hope you can join us for that. It'll be from 10 a.m. till about 1 p.m. We did record this presentation. It will be available in about 1 week on our website, alamedabackyardgrowers.org, in case you'd like to see it again, or if you know someone who missed it, wasn't able to join us tonight. If you're interested in receiving our newsletter, you can go to our website and sign up there, and you'll be able to learn about our activities, get helpful information in the newsletter, learn about when we're having meetings and when we're having in-person events as well. We're delighted that all of you joined us this evening. Great pleasure to have you talk about ergonomics. Joan, thank you so much. Anybody else have anything, any question or announcement to make at this time? If not, thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you join us another time in the future. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Good night.